Can I make a few copies?
Oh, wait, we're just about to start.
I thought you were walking in.
Yeah.
It's not that late.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah? That's the narrative?
Yeah, that's the narrative one here.
Yeah, I can slide down too.
You want to still slide down?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, Alvaro, you're gonna be presenting, so I'm gonna use it as April.
Yeah, this side would probably be beneficial.
All right.
Would anybody like water?
Please.
Okay. I would love water. Thank you.
We got seven.
I'm good, I'm good.
Good. Okay, today is February 3rd. It's about 3:40, unfortunately. We're a little late, but it's a meeting of the Roosevelt Islands Operating Corporation Real Estate Development Advisory Committee. Present for the committee, Dr. Mikhail Malamed, David Kraut by remote, Howard Polly, chair. Present for the corporation, Lada, our acting general counsel. Almost.
I thought she did okay.
Right, I always get these things confused. Mary Kineen, our acting COO, Truvika Amen, our CFO, and Alvaro
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria, I want to get that right, who's our AVP and chief engineer, essentially, actually.
Yes, civil engineering and capital planning.
Right, capital engineering, capital planning. So we have members of the community here. Great. So
I'm not with the community.
I was wondering.
It's okay. I'm Jordan Cameron. I'm with Hudson related.
oh, great. Sure.
Here to talk
Okay.
about the
Okay.
building 8 thing.
Okay, yeah, remind me when we get to that.
No
Great,
problem.
thank you. Okay.
Happy to be here.
So jumping right into our agenda, we're discussing some of the upcoming capital projects that are oriented to will do our committee concerns and discussion of Eleanor Pierre's next step. So I think Alvaro, that puts you on call.
Yeah, so we'll share, just a little presentation here. Should have. Share screen. Hopefully everyone can. Now we're in system. So, I'll let Alvaro take it from here.
Okay. So this pier was constructed in about 1990, and ever since that time we have seen just one instance where we had to go to a major repair, which was in 2013, part of the repair intended. And part of that renovation was funded by FEMA because it was caused by this hurricane. After that was completed, the next failure we had was in 2023. That was the one railing that fell. And at that point, maintenance took on the task of replacing the railing that fell. And we analyzed and saw that the material of construction of that railing was kept as it was originally done, which was just regular steel. So we took an approach to make our business to construct the stand using galvanized. Because we would either do galvanized or we would have to do stainless steel. So to keep it the same, the core of the other adjacent matrices, we had to use galvanized. And to do that, we created a footing to support the new railing not to disturb the original, platform that we had, because we were not going to do it intensively any repair, we were just replacing the rail. And when we changed the footing, we ensured that the new railing came in an anchor over there, and then we welded all around it, and we supported. We replaced also the top, the wood top. And it was left, it was up, and everything was good. We just painted the rest of it until a year later, 2024, the one next to it fell. So at that point, we said, wait a minute, now we have to analyze this further because it's a domino effect. And we decided to close the entire pier, and to make it safe for everyone, we actually fenced off. So if we go to the next slide. So in doing so, we contracted with an engineering company, Cameron, and we gave them the task to do a structural analysis of the entire pier. Not only the railings, but also the underneath and also the planks. And they came back with a comprehensive report, and they demonstrated that those panels here were deteriorating. So we have to make sure that we first of all cure them before we do any work on top. This is something that over time, not now, but calculated in about 10-year period, it would actually fail. So we want to proactively do that and not put money on top of something that we're going to have to repair 10 years down the road. So that's the first step. And as you can see in the pictures, some of the piles are really in bad shape. So at the end, we have a total of about 14 piles, out of which 5 are in bad conditions. Once they get repaired, all of them have to be encapsulated so that the water doesn't keep corroding the metal, the material underneath. So that's the first one thing that we have to do in the project. Underneath, you will see that there is a lot of biological growth, which is not really a big deal as far as this structure is concerned. But if we are going to be doing that work, we might as well go ahead and clean everything up, treat it properly. And after the piles, the next critical item is to ensure that we replace all these brackets. This is what's holding the plants together. So we have to make sure that we replace all of them using the same material of construction. If we're going to use galvanized, we use galvanized. If we're going to do stainless steel, we have to do stainless steel. Just to be consistent, and this way when we initiate the project, we give the same vendor the same task. Right? After this is done, the next priority will be now to look at the surface on the planks and see which planks need to be replaced. Not all of them do. We just have to see which other ones are not going to be creating a trip hazard, but are not already stated so that we will not go back. We will have to proactively do that, such as this illustration here. And after that is completed, only then we can worry about the railing, right? So we can only then jump into this. And we wanted to do this study so that everybody understands what's involved. We could have just replaced that one railing like we did the previous time, but it would be responsible of our side to do so, knowing that there are issues that need to be taken care of before that. This table here illustrates in an upper view of the dollar amount we're looking at, and also of what's really critical as far as the count of each of the line items. So the number one thing that we have here is the piles, and you can see that we need 4 reinforcements. These reinforcements don't have the illustration that I showed that it's pitting, that is really in bad shape. And all the others, 16 actually needs to be wrapped to protect. So estimated of $108,000 plus minus. And this is just using rule of thumb that the engineering firm has based on their experience. Now the next one, you look over here.
And if you can clarify, Aldo, that's like within the next 10 years, it's not urgent, right?
That's within the next 10 years, yes.
And
According to what they can forecast on the best judgment, there was no analytical data that would say that this will last 10 years. No, we didn't do any impact tests or anything like that would say, okay, based on this. This was just an
So it's a
overall.
surface examination.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and this was done, by the way, I should have mentioned this. This was done by qualified people, divers that actually went in and did this survey because it was underwater. Okay? We have a full report of the certification of the people that went there and the method of how they tested and how they analyzed all of that. But this is, in summary, what we are looking at. Okay? So after
So,
that.
yeah, sorry, so for the piles, I thought you actually said before that there were 5 that were really in bad
I
shape?
didn't have the table. in
Okay,
front of me. So I say
this is the right
roughly,
number.
right?
Okay,
This is the actual.
that's the right number.
Yes.
And if we do that with the wrapping and the reinforcing, how long is that supposed to last?
Okay, that's gonna be, what is that? So that is going to elongate, or is going to take the condition of the piles the way it was originally intended. Right, because now we are shielding that, and the ones that we repair is going to repair what's critical. And that means that doing another analysis is going to bring us within that spectrum of where you're gonna be, within the specs. I don't have the data, I don't have the numbers, but that's going to be something that we're gonna have to put up front, because that's gonna be part of the warranty,
Okay,
once it's executed.
I think in the assessment, it said it could add like 20 to 30 years in
But
terms of
this is just,
lifespan.
but I don't have, I would hate to say that, because if I say a number, I have to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have I have to have some analysis done, okay, how, this is just a projection. Mhm. So they are projecting that it could last 10 years.
Without
Without
repair.
any repair.
Okay.
We don't have any table that says after that how long it's gonna last. But same thing with the galvanized steel. When we were discussing about replacing the material, there was some dialogue about, well, who's gonna guarantee it? Because technically, if you go by the book, galvanized is supposed to be good for 40 years, right? So how do we put that in writing? Okay, so now we have to say what kind of alloys we're using, what grade of galvanized it is, how it was done, all of these criteria to ensure that that's going to be the case. So knowing that this is the most critical, we could potentially have 10 years, forget about it, just do the rating. But like I said, it would be responsible of our side to ignore this, especially now that we have the data in front of us.
so the material that it was originally made from, and this is not my area, but was it expected to last 40?
It was regular steel.
It was and that doesn't sound like the right thing
Because
to
of
use.
because it's next to water, and because it's where it's located, it wasn't the right material. So
Okay.
when we built this in, 1990, it should have been done, with the minimum guidelines. So how it got, who designed it or how it was passed, I don't know, but that's what we have now. Now, by the way, this has to do with energy, but in that same area, you have these other railings in the steps. We replaced that proactively, and that's all galvanized. Okay?
But we can't change this to galvanized, right? Because we can't change this.
No, this is gonna be entirely, once we get to the railing portion of it, we will have to decide if we do galvanized or stainless steel. Yes, but not the steel.
But the
anymore.
piles are there to stay,
The
right?
piles
We
we
can't
cannot replace, the piles we have to reinforce
Okay.
and wrap around to avoid.
To protect
To
them from the
protect.
harsh conditions.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, in the order of priority, you have the piles, and then you're gonna have the, according to this table, the framing, the hardware. When they say the hardware, that's the brackets that hold everything together, okay? And of course, then you're gonna have the railings. So if you take all of these, if you go to the next slide, please. If you take all of this, what's critical, the piles, the framing, the railings, we're looking close to $500,000 here, $400,000. Now, just for illustration, the piles is 20 inch in diameter, and we have 20. Now, remember, we had 16 on the other side. the one is 16 and here is 20. Because we are counting on the front ones. There are some in the back that are miscellaneous. But all of them have the same diameter and same, and if you look over here, this is the steel, and it's encapsulated, it's concreted. And then you have the other ones that are on the sides, 10 to 12 inch. That's the one that is along the side, that supports the plant itself. Okay, so this is something that, for purposes of this conversation is not important, but if we need to have a dialogue of exactly how it's going to be done, we can have a conversation about that. But this is more of an overview, how much money we're looking at. I do not have right now a timeline of if we start this, when it's going to be completed. I would have to give that in a Gantt chart projection of a project to see how long it's going to last. But roughly, half a year.
Now, is timing important? Because I know the work in the waterway is limited certain times of year.
Yes.
So, there's a period where you're not able to work because of marine life considerations, and then other times when the water's just not hospitable, especially if you're going to be working on the pilings.
Howard, I have a question. May I?
Yes?
I
Sure.
want to ask, gentlemen, what is the construction of the pilings? Is concrete sleeve around a steel cage and then concrete poured in? How is that built?
Okay, so you have the beam, and the beam is concreted around the beam. The support foundation.
I don't care about anything except the piles. What is the method of construction of the piles themselves?
What is the what?
That's
Method of construction for the pile.
Let me just back up a minute, because you people don't know a thing about me. So let me just tell you something about myself. I built Pier 76 at the foot of 36th Street. I was one of 10,000 guys in the summer of '63 who built that sucker. And I watched how they built the individual piles. And first they put a concrete sleeve. First they pounded a wooden piling in. On top of that, they rested a concrete sleeve. And then they put in that a reinforcing, a rebar cage. And then they poured concrete in all around there. So that you ended up with a precast concrete exterior, a concrete core reinforced with rebar. And I'm asking if this was the same kind of construction in these pilings. And I'll tell you in a minute why I ask. Is that the construction here?
The construction of how this pile, the way these piles were constructed, I don't have that information. I only can speak to how we're going to fix what's there.
Okay. Well, I've seen your pictures, and I'm going to ask. My next question would be that amount of corrosion and erosion through the concrete, exposing the metal so that it rusts. Is that typical, or is that a problem unique to our particular situation?
I'm going to have to come back to you with that answer, and I'm going to have to defer to the study that was conducted. And if the study or the file does not clarify that, I will get clarification from the people that do this for a living, which is the ones we hire.
I would urge. I find your photography frightening. I don't understand why those piling wraps are so corroded. I accept that the best solution, that stuff. Yeah, bingo.
Okay.
I accept your solution, but these pictures scare me, and I think they have to be addressed sooner rather than later. That's my recommendation to this committee. That this kind of stuff, the railings and the deck and all that stuff, yeah, of course, people will not have access to the pier unless that stuff is handled. But before you can build anything above the deck, you've got to have the piling that support the deck.
That's what I said, that's the number one. I said that's the number, that would be responsible of us to ignore this. This has to be done.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yes.
I agree.
Now, you were asking is how this was constructed, how it eroded, all of these things, right? Let me get back to you and see if I have those details in the report that I can.
It's all right. It's not that important. I was really trying to make clear that I've seen how these things are built, and that I'm scared because those pictures frighten me. That's all I'm saying. And that's the stuff that's
Yeah.
gotta be addressed right away.
Yes, indeed. That's the number one thing we gotta do.
Okay. that's
Uh,
all.
okay,
One second,
go ahead.
Okay, having been here since the age of the dinosaurs, Eleanor's Pier was originally built by, a Queens entrepreneur who was trying to build the Queensboro Bridge. And he ran out of money, but he built the pier. So what's underneath Eleanor's Pier is probably from the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s. That when I moved here, that was just, that pier with nothing on it was sitting there. And it had been sitting here for years. So that was good construction, considering these are the same people who eventually built the Queensboro Bridge. And so what you're looking at is underneath, I don't know if any of these piers were added when they built Eleanor's Piers, but I remember that pier being there and this park just being stuck on top of it. So what's under there is very, very old.
So
And
do you think these are the original
I
files?
can't say, but an engineer, your
Yeah.
engineering consult, and they'll also if they go underneath, deeper down underneath the land, they could check
Mhm.
those out, because as far as I know, it was there. I lived here and I saw it.
Mm.
Also, we've learned on this island, it has to be built like it's on a beachfront. We're wasting money if we're not going, and I see the stainless steel that they put in at Cornell at the tram, the steel is decaying. Whatever you have to put in has to be like you're building it on the beach where Margie grew up. Because it's
And
a
Mary.
waste, it's a waste to put in anything that's not saltwater resistant.
Correct.
And it's a waste. I see so much cheap stainless steel being used, and you see it's pitted after a few years. But, I'll try to find you a picture of the pier.
Okay,
But, so there's a pier under the pier.
okay. Because we also have something similar in the Prow up north.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
It's
so
a
again,
gallery.
but those are actually wood.
Yeah.
They are not concrete.
Mhm.
So those are more like the original.
Mhm.
So I don't think, but we will see if we can find some archives for when it was built in the 1990s. Now, we are doing a better work now, to ensuring that we have, data that we can, conserve and secure. Because back in those times, they were doing their own drawings and people that left carried the information with them. It was, no, we are now doing ours to make sure that we keep the data, right? So I would venture to think, without first going to check, that these were actually made in those years. Maybe the wooden were the originals, but again, I will check. But the fact is that we are not building new ones. We gotta rebuild these ones, reinforce the ones that we have. The structural analysis that was done on them is indicating what needs to be done, and they did the homework, and they only found 4 that are very critical.
But what do you wrap it with? What is the wrapping?
I don't have that info, I apologize, I will get back to you, because I would have to get all the material, because, we are just presenting here, the count, what's involved, and then if we decide, yes, okay, we need to do this, then we will go into the details and get the actual cost, not just the estimated. And then we will get more into the materials of what they wrap with and all of that.
Is this a project that something might be done this year?
We could initiate this year, but it's not going to, it's like I said, minimum 6 months project.
So for example, we could be focused on the piers this year and some of the up structure, and then complete it, next year.
Howard,
then-
I guess I have another question. If this construction
Sure,
is
David.
as old, if this construction is as old as Judy suggests it might be, at a certain point, you can't keep patching it. And I wonder if we also might need to take a look at the possibility of ripping it out completely and deciding if we want a pier there, in which case we build a completely new one, beginning with the driving of new piles. And that's expensive, but when I see pictures like this, I'm looking at the same picture you are, and I'm going to tell you, from a guy with a very basic smattering of knowledge of construction of this kind of structure, that scares me. And now I hear facts from Judy that the things are much older than I had imagined. Thank you for that additional information, Judy. And are we willing to think about the possibility of tearing the whole thing out and starting again, instead of just patching here and there and kicking the can down the road, so to speak. And is this the appropriate time to have this discussion? I suspect not. But if we're going to spend, nearly $500,000 on the project, 400,000 or whatever those total numbers were, that would be wasted money if it then turns out that the thing needs to be completely rebuilt. That's long term. I'll still be on the board.
Well, if I may say, so as part of the analysis, we would need to consider the cost and complexity of full replacement. But it seems to me if it's only 4 of the piers that are in critical condition.
According to the experts, yes,
And
it's
did,
4.
did
that
the
need to
experts,
be reworked and also
Right.
evolved.
so did they look all the way down to
They
the
went all the way,
foundation? Like
yes,
Judy was,
they dived in, yes. They
Okay.
went with it. That's how they took well, this is just the surface, but we have the analysis of underneath. Mhm. Now, we could pose the question and say, hey, what would it take to replace instead of repair?
Okay.
See, for those that are shown compromised, so that we don't kill we don't go too much, right? So, okay, we have 4. What would it take instead of reworking and patching, just take those and put new 4? What would it take to do that? And it's still rapid, but with new ones, not just reworking them.
but with
I could ask that.
galvanized steel, right?
Well,
Or
no,
with
because we're still, remember, that's already there. It's just doing the whole thing, doing the concrete again. Or maybe they say, now, if we're gonna break it and we're gonna redo, maybe now we can put the basis of galvanized here. I would ask to see what number we're looking at.
But even if you were to do the wrapping, it would still extend the lifespan, right?
Yes,
Yes.
the
Okay.
wrapping is to shield to separate, to avoid that corrosion coming in place, yes? But, even if we were to put brand new, I would wrap it. I mean, we're gonna do the rest anyway, yeah. So we could put a note that, we can get a pricing, just to compare, to see where we are, instead of the repair, replace. But this number is with the repair, roughly.
Great. So we're making progress on this. And part of this, the timing for this was dictated by when you can work in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And the working in the water is definitely, for the piles, some of the elements, you don't need to be in the water. Those can be carried on once the water work is done.
Yes, but not many people can be there at the same time.
Oh, sure.
So we have to do those piles first, and then
Of
we
course.
can maybe we can stagger different trades.
Right, once you have the foundation, then you
Yeah.
can worry about the superstructure.
Yes.
Okay. So, questions before we move on?
So the pier has been closed since last spring,
Since when it fell down, which was April,
April.
yes, almost a year,
almost a year.
almost a year, yes.
So from what you're saying, there's no likelihood of the pier reopening this summer?
No, for sure, no,
Right,
you can't.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, what about in terms of the, boat prow pier? Is there any update on the status when that may open? And have you also checked the pier that's just to the north of the boat prow pier, which is currently open? Are there any issues there?
Where exactly?
Opposite the Sanctuary Restaurant.
Yeah, like Sanctuary, near the Octagon Building.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good out, like a T.
No, we haven't checked that, no. Only these two we've checked.
So, what would the status of the boat prow pier be?
Okay, that one also is barricaded. The most critical thing to do is just to fix a railing, which is no big deal. But was there a study done over there before me?
Yeah, Cameron was working on design.
They also did that. I have to catch up with that. That was before somebody else worked on it. So, in order of priority, if the other one takes a shorter time to complete, and maybe we could do something for the summer, just thinking out loud, maybe if it's not too much involved, I would look at it. Maybe we can do that first, if that's desirable, if that's something that would, for the summer.
We should better know the status anyway.
Yes, okay, so I will look into it to see,
Great.
okay, for the trial.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the prowl is budgeted for the fiscal year coming up.
Okay,
do the
so
repair
probably we
work,
will prioritize that, being that this is gonna take a long time,
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. Any other
Are you
questions?
gonna look at that other pier though, just to see if there are any issues, or?
Well, the next one that you just mentioned, that you just brought in today, okay, we will add it to the, maybe you might just add it.
Yeah.
So we will look into that, okay? Anybody know the name of that pier?
I don't think it has any.
Because I know the Eleanor's Pier, I know the Prow, I have no idea what it's called. You
It's the
didn't
one
mention
with, the sanctuary has all their wedding ceremonies.
Right,
it. Thanks, sir.
sanctuary pier.
Okay, well, good. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Albert?
Huh?
Nothing right now? Okay, so we're gonna move the agenda, onto the roadway, project status.
Yeah, so, this includes Alvaro too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, the roadways project, we've just finished with, nearly finished the conceptual phase. So we held 2 community sessions at the end of last summer to go over some of the ideas and thoughts behind the design team's approach to the roadways project on Main Street. There was some great feedback from the community as far as signage, different things that were wanted to be explored for pedestrian walkways, daylighting, I think was one of them as well that was brought up, which the design team took back, and they're going to begin now working on the next phase, schematic diagrams, and then from there, we're going to continue on to design development, and then we'll have construction documents that'll be ready to go out for bid. Something that is going to slow down some of the design work is the SDOT grant that we were able to secure for the project. So that was a grant that was previously given for the bike lane project for $5 million. We were able to transfer those funds over to the roadways project, which is excellent. It's going to really greatly help the budget for that. Numbers, right? That would be good to have those funds. However, there are certain items we need to satisfy for that. For instance, NEPA, we have to file for that with environmental considerations in mind, and these are all SDOT requirements. So before we can actually get those funds, we're going to have to make sure that all of those boxes are checked for that project. And the design firm that we're using, Cameron IMEG, has been made aware. Alvaro's been working with them and with SDOT to make sure that they are doing all those and completing all those applications. And some of those applications can take anywhere from a month to 2 months to receive acceptance. So the sooner we can get those applications in, the better. But Cameron's going to continue to work on the design in the meantime.
So, sense of timing?
We just got an updated schedule. I think we're still working with SDOT to learn a little bit more about the studies that we have to do. For instance, we have to do a couple boring samples on Main Street to see what the base structure is under there. We received our GIS map back, which has a list and outline of all the utilities that are underneath Main Street, because the last thing we want to do is start ripping things up and, hit a pipe or a few. So we're still looking through that. We're hoping to be well through the design phase, I'd say by summer, hopefully. But again, a lot of that's pending SDOT approvals, and we don't have control over their approvals, unfortunately. But we know it's an urgent project. It's something that we haven't taken our eye off. We're continuing to progress.
Are we able to do anything about securing the crosswalks and so forth, which are the focused areas for the community? To back up, we all know the cycle of the year, which is do the work in the summer, because in the winter and there's the freeze and thaw, and there'll be migration of the zebrics. And the zebrics migrate, and the utilities, which are metal, are not migrating, and so you have movement and you have divots and so forth. So we were talking at some point about putting asphalt or something, some surface like that around the crosswalks, so at least those would be a little bit easier to maintain and smoother, for people. That doesn't answer the question of what happens when the asphalt ends and the zebra begins, but, it's something.
I thought there was some talk of putting asphalt down the whole way.
There is,
Okay.
but that's, just visualize Roosevelt Landings, and we're gonna be pouring asphalt right under windows and so forth. It's a big concern, and also sections of the roadway, large sections of the roadway taken out of service over a very, very long period, as opposed to maybe fixing this crosswalk this week.
So you're talking pre-construction,
Yes,
before the construction?
before the major project, maybe.
Okay. How much is this, just the conceptualization, how much is the planning costing us?
Just the design?
Yeah,
Right now, it's $934,000.
But if you had a contingency, I think it's like 1.1.
Right.
Yeah. So overall, I think the whole scope of the project is about 6 million from the last estimate we got.
and that includes.
For construction.
Okay, includes construction,
Mm-hmm.
Well, the design is 1.1, construction's around 6.
around 6.
So it's 7.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
keeping in mind too, this project is a large undertaking, right? It's the main artery of the island, and it's gonna require a lot of planning, a lot of phasing, most likely. There's going to be disruptions, absolutely, it's going to be inconvenient at times. We're gonna have to try and get creative on ways where we can hopefully minimize that, but sometimes it's not gonna be able to be minimized, and it's going to be, to get the project done and, the road back to really what it should be, more safe and, for drivers and pedestrians. And, it might include night work, not sure, I'm not gonna put anything out there, but, if we wanna try and minimize some of the traffic impacts, that might be something we'll need to explore. And whenever you do night work, that also means overtime, then for union crews and things of that nature, which can inflate the price. So the design team is very aware of the phasing and kind of looking at things creatively to see how we can get it done with the budget in mind, but then also the whole, keeping the island moving, really.
I had 2 questions, if I may. The first one about the crosswalk. I think the last time I heard people talk about this, the idea was to have them raised, more like a table, which would go a long way towards slowing cars down that just blast our stop signs. My first question is that still on the plan?
That is still in the plan for design,
Right.
correct? Yeah, and we were looking at doing a concrete, almost table. So it serves a bit as a speed bump, but also a good delineation between the asphalt and the crosswalk.
Perfect, thank you. The second one is, I wonder if consideration has been given when the plan's finished to surface, to making some priority parking available for people who are disabled. For a start, I know there's one person in my building, she lives in Island House, in my building, and I've seen her multiple times parking her car down by the back end of River Cross. And it's taken her 10 minutes to walk from there to Island House with a walker thing. So I would advocate strongly for, when you get down to resurfacing and thinking about the use of that space, firstly, making a space available only for people who are disabled stickers. And secondly, I think to reduce the congestion on the street where we have double parking of trucks, to take other spaces and make those into loading zones. So I don't know if that's been considered.
That is certainly the design team's looking at, is really where we have loading zones currently, where we can perhaps move them or shift them to, create better flow on Main Street. I mean, I imagine everyone here has driven or walking down Main Street, and you see just it's almost like Tetris. You've got 3 cars across, and you got 1 lane on the other side, right? We want to try and minimize or reduce that as much as we can. It might actually lead to a shift in when we allow deliveries, right? So making that occur off peak hours, maybe at night. So I think it's gonna take a lot of planning, a lot of thought, but we are considering.
And the disabled parking?
Yeah, I was looking at Main Street holistically, right? So delivery areas, 88 spaces, all those type of things.
Thank you.
And to get back to, I guess, Howard's original question about Z-Bricks and Main Street, it's an uphill battle. It's something that we're continuing to fight. So Alvaro, while being the capital planning and project and also engineer, he oversees the maintenance department, which also takes care of the Z-bricks on Main Street. They've done a couple sections of night work. They try and do it in the night so that it's less disruptive during the day. And it's just a continuous process. So we're still going to continue to do that. And then maybe for some larger areas, we have a contractor now that could possibly either secure it more with the Z-bricks that are currently there, so create a better footing underneath, and then put the Z-bricks back, or, you know, if the area is really in critical mass, we can look at asphalt or concrete. But I would just hate to spend that money now and then only to go back and tear it up. So we're trying to keep things in perspective.
Okay, great.
I have a question that's mystifying me. How are we gonna resurface the facade of Eastwood or Roosevelt Landings over Main Street? Forget the street, I mean, how are you gonna be closing off so they can do that work over Main Street into the lanes? It's been mystifying me how this is going to be accomplished on 19-story buildings. Anyone have an answer?
It's a good question. I'm not, in my mind, I can't picture the area that you're talking about right now, or just all of Main Street. Yeah.
From 580
Yeah.
is 19 stories tall,
Mhm.
and if you see the facade work going on, it takes a long time. And how is CMC going to do this, not wrecking Main Street and the traffic? Forget your project, this is massive. Has anyone discussed this with you? Have they said how we're gonna hang scaffolding over the street because there's no protective barrier, you know?
So they have reached out, yeah, I thought you were talking about roadways, I didn't know you were talking about
No,
CMC.
Main
figure out
Street.
which one
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
Because of their project.
Their
But
project.
it's gonna be over our
Right,
street.
but it's what the building is doing, we're not talking
Yeah.
about the road that Mary's talking
Got
about.
it, yeah.
So the Mary's Road,
I understand now.
she's just up the road.
Yeah, so CMC does meet with us, and we do talk about different ways that they're gonna approach that, you know. They do have to still follow all of New York City code in regards to any construction work they'll be doing, and that's what we expect them to follow. So I have not seen the most up-to-date plan as to how they're gonna approach that, but it's certainly something that we are aware of.
Because I know you're talking about, they are working in the back, in the east side.
Yes, that's
The east
correct.
side is no problem because.
Right.
It's their own courtyard, but right
So
on
they
Main
will
Street.
have to do some fall protection in the front as well.
Yeah.
Now, we're gonna have to, now that you mentioned it,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to also account that in the Gantt chart or the planning of the roadways.
Right.
Because we do not want to interfere in their work, and I don't want them interfering in our work either. Yes, so, probably it's a good time to talk to CMC and see what exactly the timeline is for them to complete the front of the buildings, or if they are postponing that for later. Because I know they're still working in the back, in the east side.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that also brings another thing to add to what Mary just said, is when we are actually executing work on Main Street, we would have to maybe detour the traffic to the east on some sections while we're working in Main Street. Say from here up to where the bus is lined up in that area, so you can go around, so we can work in this space. We clear this, then we take another section, something like that. Because the east is the way we have, but we may have to do just one way, not two ways. And then I don't know if we have anything, that we can do the west. So that would be part of the coordination. I'm getting ahead of myself. First thing that we are doing now, okay, if I may again. So the $900,000 that we have allocated to this project is broken down in different phases. And the reason we do that is because we want to make sure that the deliverables that we get from the project team is correct, and we don't incur any additional expenses along the way. So we don't, so we are on point at all times. We spent about, the cost was about $240,000 just to do the study of utilities on the roof. So to doing that, they've contracted different companies, and they've also used existing plans that they have from city departments to see where the utilities go. But we have to do our own boring to determine that. So that's going to be done in this month. We are already getting quotes to see how much it's going to take to do probably 8 to 10 borings in different places, and they know at different levels where we are. Once we conclude that, only then we can say how far we can go, right? Or if we need to engage other departments along our journey. So we're still in the conceptual phase in that. We'll have a better answer by next month. But the next thing is the boring.
So if I may add, so when we were doing the Building 9 work, we were trying to figure out the curb cut locations for the entrance to the driveway. And Verizon and the utilities gave us a map of where all the conduits were, and the map was entirely incorrect.
They always give
Yeah, so everything that we thought was like 4 or 5 feet under the ground was actually only like 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
And we had to have Verizon reroute like maybe 13 or 14 conduits, like an inch or 2 in diameter, around the entrance of the curb cut location so we can install the vaults for the electricity. So I just say this to say, I doubt that everything else is exactly what Verizon says as well. If you're doing this on other parts of Main Street, I would just prepare for the worst with them. And I was going to suggest do the borings because, yeah, and that's a good thing to do in this situation. But yeah, we found out the hard way after we had already dug up the front of the building.
And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
And also, as part of what Cameron has done for us in this study, all the data that we have collected, there is a database that we have now that is public. Anybody can download that and look at it. And we are going to have a master utility mapping of everything that is in the island, from north to south. Contingent of verifying what we have there. Now, the number one thing or the number one priority at the maintenance level is to use that tool and now map out all the light poles. So that because we know where they are and we know the tag of each one. So we will go and we will put the light pole tagging in that database. And progressively, starting with Main Street, because that's our first project, we will also ensure that the data there is accurate once we complete that. We will do the same, we do the Eleanor Pier and so on. So I know there was a ticket open to questioning about, hey, what's going on with 250, the fencing on 250, and I want to use this opportunity to say it. So for many years, we had puddle of water there, which creates a problem, somebody can fall. So we said, okay, we're going to have to take these, since we are fixing the sidewalks, putting concrete, removing the zebrates, we took that opportunity in 250 to take that and do a sidewalk. And then we came to realize that the water box that is there was not going anywhere. The water was just going down, and there was nothing, so of course it's going to pile up. More digging, we decided, we need to explore it and just get it correctly done. So we had to trench the entire thing, and that's when we had to excavate, remove all of that, and we located a clay pipe, which was compressed, pancake, from the middle of the street down to the riverside. So whenever this was made, that was the dock, which was completely collapsed. So there was nothing there communicating between the water box and the middle of the road. So now I said, no, so now we cannot reuse that, and we can just store it over there. So what we did is we located the main storm water line, which is it's right at the center, and we excavated down about 7 feet, and we cut on top of the main, we bored, and then we created a connection that we extended, and then we are bringing a new water box that we're now putting it on the street, not on the sidewalk, pitch, so that all the water that is coming in from the sidewalk and the road converge into one single point, and this being properly pitched to the storm. That's why it's taking a long time.
That reminds me, when we're working on Main Street, what we have to worry about is improved drainage.
That's one of the things we gotta worry about many things here. Yes, that's one of them.
Well, I mean, we have more intense rain events these days, for instance.
Okay, but the other thing is how we were doing PMs, because now we had to bring a truck, starting 2 years ago, to vacuum all the mold and everything that was accumulating, because that was not really properly maintained, to be honest. So we're gonna have to create a preventative maintenance program immediately following because that's an investment, and we wanna make sure that we protect our investment.
Okay.
What section of Main Street does this project encompass? Is it just from here to, or?
Yeah, it's basically from the Helix here down to the Blackwell turnaround.
Okay, got it.
And
And since Mary's mentioned Helix, we also have, we're not forgetting about this, parallel to this, we gotta worry about, under the Helix, we protected, we put a net temporarily to protect it from falling, but that's another thing that we have to worry about, have to work on it sooner than later.
Right, so that'll be our next meeting.
And when this actual road work happens, who's gonna be in charge? Like, oh, okay, all right.
We, at REDAC, we are taking over the projects ourselves.
Okay.
We're not gonna have any outside consultants.
So we're phasing out Lero.
Yes.
Correct.
I tell you what I needed to do, but I just have to
Yeah.
indicate.
Yeah, so we're building out the team. So Alvaro's, the AVP of capital planning, so he's gonna oversee this team. We've hired a draftsman that's helping out with the drawings and architectural items, and we're posted right now for a reliability engineer that'll help with all the structural engineering items and things like that. And the person is gonna be really important to the projects we discussed earlier, Eleanor's Pier and Crow, the Helix, and then even roadways as well.
Mhm.
Should I ruin your day? Well, it's not from April being our 50th anniversary of Bristol Island. Are we ever gonna resurface about by the girl puzzle, the concrete?
Okay, good, I love it. Okay.
We're in trouble everywhere.
So, again, there's some history, it doesn't matter, past is past, right? We gotta move forward. So right now, the very first step that we took is to remove everything that was crumbling, that was falling apart. That was the first thing we did. So we cleaned it up. We cleaned it up with power wash, we did what we had to do. So now what you see is what you get. All those cuts, all those things that the previous contractors did off, okay? So we're waiting for the weather to become, to be adequate so we can start this work. The goal is to do a coating at the surface, okay, waterproof it, and then come up to about maybe 5 to 6 inches at the edges on the perimeter. And then we will do the same with a different material, on the siding. Depending on how good it looks, we can extend it on the top. But I do not anticipate that to be as good. So we can only go on the sides and probably put actual, pieces of stone on the top to make it nice and even.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the most economical and durable way of doing it. We can even on the side, on the outside where you have the lawn, we can trench it and make it nicely, nicely decorated on the perimeter and put some stones or something like that. That's the core. But really the main thing is to do that, right? And also we need to ensure that the lights that are there are well sealed, because right now it rains and all the water gets in the lighting. That's not good either. And if you want to change the fixture, you cannot do it because it's anchored. So we're gonna have to do that as well. So we have already put that in our program to execute April, May, when the weather becomes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And we have a budget of roughly $30,000 to do, roughly.
Would that be adequate?
Yeah, that would be adequate. For what I'm explaining it to you, yes.
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 Yeah, because,
We are going to do it directly. We are going to supervise our contract. I'm gonna be directly involved supervising because we're not hiring somebody to
okay.
do that with a lot of people.
Okay, yeah,
Too many spoons in the soup, you know?
Yeah.
Just one, and that's it. And then we'll just cut off.
It's good to be able to have that capability in-house. And I remember when we were talking about that whole Lighthouse Park area, that hopefully all the electrical work was well, protected because everything gets submerged. It has to survive a submergence, event because of the nature of the park. So all the conduit had to be, submersible.
And again, taking the opportunity of this meeting, we at REA, we have also done our business to replace all the electrical, conduits from main switch gear board all the way to the different destinations, Sports Park being one of the cases. I know it's a new building, it's a new project, But I have now in-house drafting, so we are doing our updated drawings of how it is. Some things that were not part of the project, but guess what? We are incorporating our drawing because it's the building, whether it was a new project or past project. So that is why it's taking a little bit too close. But in the engineering side of things, a sports park is closed. In the construction side of things, we're still working with our general contractor to make sure that they deliver what we pay for, okay?
Close out.
Yes. And we've held money back in retainage.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they are giving us credits for all the things that they haven't done. We are doing it and they will be bringing them back.
Okay, great.
Quick
Okay.
question about sports park. I heard that there were issues with the roof. Are there still issues with the
For
roof?
what?
The roof of sports park. Are there still issues with the roof of sports park?
I think that was the waterproof, maybe?
What exactly are you apologizing?
Waterproof.
Yeah, I think it was the waterproofing.
Waterproofing.
Yeah, on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
For the roofing?
Okay,
I think that that area,
Okay, so in a sports park, in the north side of sports park, when you go from the east to the west, that was not included in the project. That roofing needs to be redone, absolutely. Now, as far as water intrusion into the building, we don't have a problem there. It only affects the surface on the wall that connects to the playroom.
oh, yeah.
That is affected, but before we used to have a problem that water was coming into the IT room, all of that is being corrected. But that roofing eventually has to be, reworked, yes.
So that's a separate project.
That's a separate, maybe not so much a project, maybe a maintenance, task.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on this agenda?
No, I'd just like to add, we're also addressing like environmental concerns too, when it comes to like the Eleanor's, pier repairs and roadways, so we have to make sure it's appropriate for the environment.
Well, there's that. Any river work
Mm-hmm.
has to be timed, so it lessens the environmental impact that's required by, I forget the agency in charge of public water.
When we were in a meeting with the
Army
New
Corps of
York State,
Engineers, right?
when we were in a meeting with the New York State Department of Transportation, they actually brought that back. They said, listen, what was the original setting of Roosevelt Island? Are we going to disturb anything by adding other materials? What is the percent that you can do and not do? So that was actually raised with them, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, well.
Thank you.
Now, thank you, Okay, our last scheduled item is, discussion of Southtown Building 8 lease amendments. Yep.
Okay.
That's for me.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll preface this by saying I was not at Hudson when Building 8's lease was originally signed, but the situation is that as part of the development of Building 8 and Building 9, I guess, concurrently or subsequently, the plan was to erect large exterior lighting on firefighters' field to allow the field to be illuminated at night. The work got deferred towards the end of Building 8, and my understanding was that it was pushed off because we didn't have the electrical service at Building 8 connecting to the park area over there to do the work at the time. Some point during the early development of Building 9, it was floated to REDAC the premise of eliminating the large outdoor lighting for the same cost estimate that we received from Monadnock and their subcontractor who was going to do the installation work, in part or mostly because we thought that having giant field lights blaring into the windows of residents between all of the buildings over there would just be a big detriment, and people would not want to live on that side of the building facing the bridge. Alas, we completed we're mostly complete with Building 9, and this has fallen to the bottom of the docket until we realized, we should paper a lease amendment and get REAC the credit of $562,000, which I guess could be used for your Eleanor's peer repair work. So that's really the whole story. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm new to this, and I don't use the field, but it seems to me like there might have been a reason why we wanted lights on the field in the first place.
I mean, my understanding is that there was an original plan to do night events at some point,
Yeah, so I
but,
think a lot of it came up, because at the time when this project was starting and discussions were happening, McManus Field was being closed for renovation. McManus Field is the only field that we have that has lights. So I think the thought process at the time was we'll add lights to this field, so that way we'll have another field that has lighting on it for night activities. Now that McManus is open and that field gets a ton of usage day and night, the thought process is we don't really need it at Firefighters Field to have all those lights. And, you know, and looking at the buildings over there and doing a walkthrough of the area, anyone living on that side of the building would certainly need some serious shades if the lighting was going to be there. So it really would diminish, you know.
Just a good one.
Yeah, yeah. And really, it's not something that we feel there's really a need for at this time, having another field with lights. McManus Field is sufficient for those activities, and people still use Firefighters Field well into the evening hours and things like that.
and I'll add that the dog run that's currently located within the field is scheduled to be removed and moved to Commons East, which we're expecting to complete, which is the area immediately between building Riverwalk Park and Riverwalk Heights, 430 Main Street and 460, I think is the address there. And that new dog run will be lit with similar lighting to what's used throughout the island. So it's not like the dog run will be in the dark, and that will be in a lit area.
Excuse me, Rick. Excuse me, Rick. Excuse me, Rick.
Firefighters Field.
Rick,
Rick.
shut up.
Yeah.
Are we still charging people for the use of those fields?
We are not charging for the use of Firefighters Field right now, because when the project was in construction, they required a fall zone for their work to take place. So I think it was it 50 or 100 feet?
I think we took 50.
Yeah.
50 feet onto the field. So we decided not to permit that field and just have it be open play. So it's been open play since the building began.
There might have been an answer to the earlier question. There might have been some thinking that if we're charging money for the field, we can make more money if we can keep it lit later in the day. If we're not going to be doing that anymore, then I agree that we don't need all this lighting. We just don't need it. If there's no business case to be made, which I don't particularly agree with anyway, then it becomes kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
May I ask something?
Sure.
I just want to clarify, just like Jordan mentioned, it's not only the amendment of Southtown 8 building lease agreement, which would be the third amendment, because we already amended it once. It was mostly the extension of duration of this lease. And we also have the original obligation or commitment on the part of the developer to build this lighting in the firefighters' fields, which was reflected in the Fifth Amendment to the Development Agreement
right,
from
that's
2000. So there's basically two pieces. So it will be the Sixth Amendment to the Development Agreement,
Yeah.
releasing developer from this obligation, along with the Second Amendment to the Southtown 8 lease.
Yep, exactly.
Releasing the tenant from the same obligation, because this obligation was spelled out in two documents, in the Fifth Amendment to the Development Agreement and in the Southtown 8 lease. So it will be two items for the board, but we will have probably one resolution for both of them,
Yep.
because it's the same obligation we are talking about, basically releasing tenant under Southtown 8 lease and developer under the Fifth Development Agreement from this obligation, exchange from this sum of money, which we can utilize, as we know. The suggestion was to use it for Eleanor's Pier development.
Well,
something,
but we had something else in mind, perhaps.
Yes.
Maybe a conference station. of some
Yeah,
sort.
a portable bathroom areas that are over there. There's actually, we've been looking into it, it's called the Portland Loo, and they've set them up. They're setting one up in Astoria right now. It's essentially a modular, singular restroom area, and they're much cheaper to install and fabricate, and you can set up several right next to each other, which would serve firefighters' fields very well in that tram area, kind of where everyone tends to meet and congregate.
Where would you put them?
We haven't finalized the location, but probably in the, if you're standing at the tram, the northeast corner, kind of by firefighters' field, right where the water fountain is.
So wasn't there an obligation from Hudson related to put a comfort station at firefighters' field, and I think it was like up to $1 million?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and we received that $1 million back in reimbursement because
That
we
was,
no
that
longer
was
went forward
the
with it.
previous amendment to the.
Yes.
So Amendment 1 was to remove the comfort station, Amendment 2 is to remove the lighting.
Yes, and we did it on December 17, 2020, when the board already voted on this amendment and authorized to approve amendment of lease with Riverwalk 8 Housing Development Fund Corporation, specifically for this $1 million in lieu of this comfort station building obligation. So this is we're doing this the second time.
Yep.
First, that was for comfort station, $1 million, and now it's for lighting in the firefighters' field for the amount of suggested amount of $562,000.
That's right.
Subject to further review the actual amount. And we hope to bring this to the full board for the March 6th board meeting.
I do have a question. Do you want to go first? Go ahead.
Well, no, you're on the board, you do.
Okay. So, steam tunnels, there was supposed to be a study presented back, or at least that's what Jay Kramer said. He's gonna send back a report on the steam tunnel, or a study on the steam tunnel. Has there been one?
I'm not exactly familiar with what you're referring to, but all I can say about Building 9 is that we capped and removed the steam tunnel, the portion of the steam tunnel when Building 9 was constructed, but I'm not sure exactly what's being referenced otherwise.
I think there was some concern that the steam tunnel was always there, and then Building 9 did something, and we're not sure what Building 9 did to the steam tunnel, because
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that the steam tunnel at the time when Building 9's foundation was built was just capped entirely with a concrete cap, and we have not had access to the steam tunnel from when the foundation of Building 9 was initially built in 2022 now. But, I mean, I think that we circulated some additional information when that question got brought up several months ago, but that was at least the extent of the
Yes, can you
information.
circulate that?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I don't have it.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'd like
I
to.
think I don't have that.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. The port is, yeah, you're over.
I have
Go
been,
away.
I
Go
have.
first.
Okay, back to David's point here, I think it's not a moot point, because David, I think what Mary said was, we're not renting it out now because Hudson Related needed part of it
Yeah.
during construction, but construction's over. So everybody on the island kind of assumed we'd go back to renting it out again. And I guess my question would be, what do the guys at Octagon and Manhattan Park do so that the stuff doesn't, the lights don't go into their, they have the same issue? I think they have like down lighting or something, so that it doesn't blind the people in the apartments at Octagon or Manhattan Park, which is right on either side of the field that has the lighting now.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not entirely familiar with what they're doing over there, but,
Okay. I mean, I think there are protections to the light so that it doesn't glare into somebody's apartment.
Well,
And-
I can speak to that. So in the maintenance department, we had a request several times to see if we can angle those lights as much as possible so it will not hit the buildings. So there is a limitation, that is making some noise there. There is a limitation there. There's a limitation there of what we can do. So what we said is,
My sound just went off. What are we all staring at? I can't hear anything. Who kicked the plug out?
I can't hear anything either.
I heard that. Oh. We'll have our own meeting out here.
hear us? Okay. Sorry about that.
Can you hear us? Okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. But it's.
David, can you hear us?
This meeting room is still muted.
That's because this is a separate, call-in thing, yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Okay, so the problem that they were having is exactly that. So how far can we go down? So what we did is we had to go up, climb the marine ladder that they have in the pole, and go into the platform, and then bring the fixtures down and adjust it. But if we are going to do a new installation, that's different, because the new installation already accounts for it, you can remotely do that.
Well, I don't think that is accounted for electronically controlled lighting. I think it was fixed position was the
Okay,
original,
yes. So
the original idea.
if we are going to entertain the idea of doing this, we should do it with the fact that we can adjust the angle on independently, like a camera system, that you will adjust different cameras to different angles. We will have to do something like that. That would be the solution.
Nobody,
Go ahead. And even going a little bit further, we have the money to do it, is in adjusting the height also. That would be great, right? Because you adjust the height and you also adjust the angle. For different events, require different lighting spectrum.
So,
You can adjust that. Yeah, everything comes with a cost.
Right, there you go, we'll be funding the project.
For big concerts.
Okay.
That could be a possibility, because even now, when we turn the Blackwell House Park, the basketball court, we have complaints from building, what's the building in the corner, 416?
Building 7.
Okay.
That's
On
really
the- on the-
complaints.
Four eight.
The lights for the basketball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we at least
No,
try some of
nobody-
that out before we decide we're not
Yeah,
gonna
we're
do
gonna have to
it or anything? And
evaluate.
because I mean, Zog Sports and everybody, that was a very active place and we probably made a bunch of money from doing it, which means we could probably foot the bill for the extra cost.
that's a terrible idea.
Yes.
Nobody who lives in the Riverwalk buildings wants there to be any kind of outdoor lights on that field, nor do they want it to be used,
They don't want it used there anymore?
not at
Not
night.
at night.
Not at night?
It's a horrible, horrible idea.
It's not
Yeah,
the
people wanna
lighting,
sleep
it's
and
the
kids
sound,
wanna
people
sleep.
Yeah.
hear this, like, games and everything.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
for families with children, they would be very upset.
Then, then
I'm
let's
just
decide that the
disabusing
people
you.
don't want it, as opposed to,
Now, you might
can't
say,
do it.
you might say the rest of Roosevelt Island doesn't care and put it there because we can make money on it, but the people that live in Riverwalk will be extremely opposed to it. I mean, and for, disclosure purposes, I live in Riverwalk.
I know that. I don't care if
But
we decide
I
to not do
don't
it
think-
because of that, I just don't want to do it because there's no way we could fix the lighting. If there is a way that it won't shine in,
Right, I don't think
and
it's
they'd be okay with
necessarily
that,
just
fine.
the lighting, I think it's promotion of
That's a
outdoor
whole different thing
activity
then.
at night in that field.
I just don't want us to decide because we have decided we weren't renting it anyway, or any of that.
Well,
I just
that-
want to decide it for the right
Yeah,
reasons,
that
that's all.
field happens to be pretty close to the buildings,
Yeah.
and there's a bit of a setback between Octagon
Okay.
and even Manhattan Park and the,
And also, isn't firefighters field not supposed to be permitted out? Wasn't that a big issue for a long time? And the decision was made that firefighters field would not be permitted out and would be used for like open play.
We just weren't permitting during construction, but after construction's over, we're gonna.
But even
resume.
before construction started, I thought there was a decision made that firefighters would not be permitted out. Because there's a big issue of Zog using it all the time, and people said that people in the community couldn't use it, and REAC made the decision not to permit out firefighters field.
I know that we have certain times and days where we don't permit on McManus Field. I remember that. Yeah, I don't recall firefighters, but.
I think that was just for the future.
We'll have to go back into the videos and see where it was decided.
Okay. One more.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's what you let me in what happened. First of all, firefighters field, well, going back to the west side, they had terrible problems when they built Manhattan Park and when they built the Octagon, the fields there, because the people who live on 77th Street were constantly complaining, and that had to be remediated. Firefighters field, like all our lawns, is in crappy condition. Instead of, thank you for your $562,000, let's regrade that field. All our ball fields, the Blackwell lawn, are in terrible condition. They really haven't been regraded or anything taken care of them. You walk on them, they're full of pits. And no one would want to rent them out in the condition they're in. So thank you for your $562,000. Maybe if some of it could be spent to regrade the field, because you have this, you're going to have a nice plan next to it, the new Commons East.
Mm-hmm.
And the field looks like heck. I mean, you know, and all our fields are in really bad shape. The Blackwell lawn is a disaster. And all summer we had these people coming and playing volleyball every single weekend with like 10 volleyball nets on firefighters field. And, you know, they were just wrecking it. And, you know, and so I really think that's more important. Thank you for your money. Well, now let's at least fix up the field next to the new building and next to the Commons. You know, if we don't put lights in there, it'll be dark and romantic at night. And by the way, the porta potties look like something like an old French pissoir, if anyone knows what bathrooms used to look like in Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very unappealing looking, really, this, Portland Loo. Ooh, it's here. You want to see the picture? Google Portland Loo, Loo. I think we can do better.
Is there a way to build, something by the tramway? I know there's plumbing there, and there's bathrooms there. I used to use them when I was little. I know there's bathrooms at the tramway that I used to use when I was little, but now people are not using them. Can we build those out and make them public?
Well,
Yes, people will just travel specifically on Brazil Island side for these bathrooms if they don't have the same on Manhattan side. There will be more traffic on the tram if we put the tramway bathroom. I think people will just, oh, yeah, there is a
No, there's two
bathroom.
bathrooms. One is there.
They're gonna pay for going to the bathroom.
No, they just finally repaired the sewer, finally. The one is for staff, and there is a visitor bathroom that, if you can ask the tram attendant to open up for you. But it's a terrible situation. When the sewers weren't working, sports park, Cornell Tech, really, you can get really nice precast concrete bathrooms like you have up at Lighthouse Park. Put those in. I mean, they probably don't cost more. They're precast concrete. They like those. This Portland Loo really looks like it's terrible looking. So, I mean.
The bathroom, the pool was an idea only.
Yes.
Conceptually, we have not done anything about it. There's two disadvantages about those, even if they look great. Number one is that it doesn't have heating. So, and it's exposed at the top and the bottom.
Yes.
So when you go to the bathroom, it's really cold.
Howard,
Dave.
I have to
David?
say,
Yeah.
I am totally enthralled that we're talking about bathrooms in this meeting. That's exactly why we held this meeting. But I gotta leave in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We who live here need
Okay,
bathrooms.
so
Judy,
you present,
Judy, are you on the board now, Judy? Did that change? You were asked to
No.
be on the board. You were asked to be on the board 15 years ago, and you declined. David's been here a long time. David
Public
remembers
meeting
stuff.
day. How about muting him?
Okay, thank you. So we've gone through the agenda. Any important items to bring up right now?
I just had one thing, a while ago, I don't know if you got the text that I sent you. It was for, a referral for a medical provider. Did you get that text that I sent you?
Yeah, at the last meeting that we had with Hudson Related, I don't, Hudson Related seemed like they were really trying to get a medical provider on the island, and I don't know if there's any updates on that, or,
I don't have anything, but I can find out.
Manhattan, medical offices,
Okay.
their, Wendy Hirsch had a contact. Did you?
They were provided to, the Hudson related, the rental team, so I.
Okay, I'll talk with the rental team and find out what the status is. Yeah, Didier's in charge of that.
Yeah, if anyone knows an interested party, refer them through and they'll end up over with the rental team.
Okay, great. I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you said it.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, and I second the motion. David, you? Okay, so this is, this meeting is adjourned. This has been the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation Real Estate Development Advisory Committee, and the time is 4:55. 4:55.
That's wrong. Yeah, that's 5 minutes ahead.
Let the record also show that Lydia Tang, another board member, joined us during the course of the meeting. Okay,
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
When do you schedule to move into the new building?
So we hadn't, taken possession of this